I lay still on the worn-out couch, wrapped in a thin blanket, my body fragile, my spirit even weaker. From the half-open door, I heard them, my own son and daughter, speaking in low voices, as if discussing old furniture no one wanted anymore. "She won't last much longer," my daughter muttered. "We should call the lawyer. Better to have things settled before, you know." "It's sad," my son replied. "But what can we do? She's just existing. It's not a life anymore. It's a burden. A burden. That word. It sliced through the little strength I had left, sharper than any scalpel, colder than any winter. I pressed my hand against my mouth to hold back the sob that rose up, bitter and raw. Was that all I had become to them? A task to be completed, a problem to be solved? I had raised them with hands that blistered from scrubbing floors, with arms that carried groceries and babies alike, with a heart that never thought of itself first. I gave them Christmases they still romanticized, birthdays with homemade cakes and secondhand gifts wrapped in love. I stayed when their father left. I fought when money ran thin. I sacrificed dreams they never even knew I had, because they were always my dream. And now, they were just waiting for me to die. That night, lying in the small, cold bedroom they had tucked me away in, I stared at the ceiling. The paint was peeling, much like my body, much like the life I had built. Tears slid silently into my pillow, but no one came to check on me. No one ever did anymore. "If you're still breathing, you still have a choice," I heard a whisper in my heart. Maybe it was God. Maybe it was my own stubborn soul. And in that darkness, with nothing left but shame and pain, I made a promise. I will not leave this world defeated. I will not die the way they expect me to. I will live. The next morning, as sunlight crept weakly across the floorboards, I shuffled to the kitchen table and picked up the newspaper. Between ads for medications and funeral homes, one headline grabbed me by the heart. "Silver Strength, Fitness for Seniors, Reclaim Your Life." I smiled for the first time in months, a small, broken smile, but it was mine. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number. Each ring on the line felt like a hammer striking a bell deep in my chest. "Silver Strength Gym, how may I help you?" a cheerful voice answered. My voice cracked, but it came out strong enough. "Hello, I'd like to join." The gym smelled of rubber and metal and something sharper, the sting of sweat and determination. The sliding doors hissed open and I hesitated, my reflection staring back at me in the glass. A thin, trembling woman, hair like winter frost, clothes hanging off my shrinking frame. What am I doing here? I thought. This is foolish. This is desperate. But I tightened my grip on the strap of my worn-out purse and stepped inside. At the reception desk, a young man, barely older than my grandson, looked up, startled. "Can I help you?" he asked cautiously. "I'd like to sign up," I said, lifting my chin a little higher. He blinked but handed me a clipboard without comment. As I struggled to fill out the forms with my shaky handwriting, I felt the weight of eyes on me. Young, vibrant bodies moved around with ease, running on treadmills, lifting weights, stretching like dancers. I was a wilted flower in a garden of oaks. The first session was harder than I had imagined. The trainer, a kind woman named Sarah, was patient, but even her soft voice couldn't shield me from the reality. I couldn't lift the lightest dumbbell. I couldn't hold a plank for 5 seconds. I couldn't walk a full lap around the track without my chest burning and my legs buckling. And worse, I could hear the whispers, not loud, but loud enough. "She's going to break a hip just tying her shoes. Someone should tell her it's too late." It's sweet, but kind of sad, isn't it? Every comment was a needle, threading doubt, into the fragile fabric of my resolve. At night, the soreness in my body was almost unbearable. I could barely lift my arms to brush my hair. Bruises bloomed like dark flowers on my legs and arms. I looked at my reflection and wondered if I was just being ridiculous, chasing dignity that was already lost. Maybe they were right, I thought. Maybe it's too late for me. But somewhere deep, deep inside, that tiny ember from that dark night still glowed. I went back, and again, and again. Each step on the treadmill, each attempt at a push-up, each lift of a small weight. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fast, but it was mine. I was fighting for inches, not miles, but they were my inches. About 2 months into my journey, something happened that shook me deeper than any sore muscle ever could. I had just finished a session, my best yet. I had managed to lift a small barbell, just 10 pounds, but it felt like I was lifting the entire world. Sweaty, flushed, and proud, I decided to treat myself to a small coffee at the cafe next to the gym. As I sat there, savoring the taste of victory, I didn't notice my daughter walk in with her friends. She spotted me before I could hide. Her eyebrows arched high, and she let out a short, disbelieving laugh. She crossed the room with long, confident strides, her voice just loud enough for everyone around to hear. "Mom, what on earth are you doing here? Lifting weights now? Planning to run a marathon at your age?" she said mockingly. Her friends giggled behind their manicured hands. I felt the blood rush to my face. My coffee trembled in my hand. "You should be resting," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Not making a fool of yourself. Honestly, Mom, this is embarrassing." I sat there, paralyzed, every word slicing into me. It felt worse than the whispers at the gym. This was my daughter, the child I had once bathed, fed, defended against school bullies, looking at me as if I were some pathetic joke. I went home that night and didn't go back to the gym the next morning, or the morning after that. The pain wasn't in my body this time. It was in my spirit, cracked and crumbling. "Maybe they're right," I whispered into the empty room. "Maybe I'm just chasing something that isn't mine to have anymore." For days I stayed in my bed, the walls closing in tighter each hour. The newspaper clippings, the gym schedule pinned to my wall, the sneakers by the door. They all mocked me now, reminders of a foolish dream. Hope had flickered and died, or so I thought. On the 4th morning, as I sat staring at the wall in my kitchen, the phone rang. It was Sarah, the trainer from the gym. "Hey, Mary," she said gently. "Haven't seen you in a few days. I just wanted to check on you. There's someone here who asked about you." Someone? Against every ounce of fear and shame inside me, I agreed to come by. Just for a minute, I told myself. I owe them that much. I slipped into the gym quietly, hoping no one would notice me. But there, waiting near the stretching mats, was a small, wiry woman with silver hair twisted into a neat bun. Her eyes sparkled, mischievous and warm at the same time. "You must be Mary," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Evelyn." Her grip was firm, much firmer than mine. "Sarah told me about you. You're the lady making waves around here," she smiled. I gave a sad chuckle. "More like ripples," I said. Evelyn sat beside me. "Listen, Mary," she said, her voice lowering. "I was where you are. 3 years ago, after my husband died and my son stopped visiting, I thought my life was over too." I looked at her, stunned. She didn't look like someone who had given up. She looked alive. "But here's what I learned," she continued, her hand resting lightly on mine. "We don't live for them anymore. We live for ourselves. Every breath you take, every step you fight for, it's yours, Mary, not theirs." Something cracked open inside me. Not the painful, destructive kind of crack, but something gentler. like the breaking of a shell around something still living. "You're not finished," Evelyn said, squeezing my hand. "You're just getting started." And for the first time in days, the ember inside me flared back to life. The next morning, I laced up my sneakers. Each movement was heavy, but determined. I walked into the gym, not to prove anything to my children, not to reclaim something they stole, but to reclaim something I had almost abandoned myself, my dignity, my strength, my right to exist fully. And this time I didn't care who whispered. I wasn't there for them. I was there for me. The seasons shifted. Winter melted into spring, spring bloomed into summer, and with each sunrise, my body and my spirit grew stronger. I wasn't running marathons, but I could lift weights that once seemed impossible. I could walk for an hour without stopping. I could climb the stairs at home without clutching the rail. More than that, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a frail, forgotten woman anymore. I saw Mary, alive, radiant, worthy. My skin still carried the marks of age, yes, but now my posture was tall, my shoulders back, my eyes clear and filled with something my children hadn't seen in years: fire. One Sunday afternoon, almost exactly a year after that dark night when everything seemed lost, my son called. "Family lunch," he said awkwardly. "Everyone's coming. You should too if you're feeling up to it." If I was feeling up to it. I smiled as I hung up the phone. I arrived at their house wearing a simple dress, blue the color of the sky after a storm, and comfortable low heels. No cane, no assistance. As I walked through the doorway, conversations faltered. Forks paused mid-air. Eyes widened in disbelief. "Mom?" My daughter breathed, as if seeing a ghost. "Yes," I said with a soft smile. "It's me." I moved through the room with calm dignity, the very embodiment of everything they thought I had lost. I hugged my grandchildren. I complimented the decor. I laughed easily. They didn't know what to say, and for once I didn't rush to fill the silence. Let them sit in it. After lunch, as coffee was being served, I stood up. "I have something to share," I said, my voice steady. They turned to me, expectant, uneasy. "Over the past year, I realized something," I began. "I spent my whole life giving everything to others, believing that love meant losing yourself. But real love, real life, it starts with valuing yourself first." I pulled a small envelope from my bag and placed it on the table. "I've updated my will," I said simply. They froze. "Most of my estate will go toward funding programs for senior health and independence, programs that help people like me reclaim their lives when the world decides they're finished." Dead silence. No one spoke. No one dared. I looked around the room, feeling no anger, no spite, only a deep, profound peace. "I hope," I said, "one day you will find your own strength too." And with that, I picked up my purse and left. Outside, the sun bathed the world in gold. The air smelled of blooming jasmine. I stood still for a moment, savoring the sensation of being alive. I had not just survived, I had risen. I kept my promise, not to them, not even to God, but to myself. Sometimes life doesn't end with a bang or a grand rescue. Sometimes it ends quietly, not in death, but in surrender. I almost let that happen to me. I almost let the voices of those who stopped seeing my worth drown out my own. But I learned that dignity isn't something others can give you or take away. It lives deep inside, waiting for you to claim it. No matter how many years pass, no matter how many scars you carry, you are never too old, too broken, or too forgotten to start again. I didn't win back my children's approval. I didn't need to, because I found something much greater, myself. If you've ever been made to feel like you were too late to live fully, if you've ever had to fight to reclaim your own worth, I would be honored if you shared your story in the comments. Maybe, just maybe, your voice will light a fire in someone else's darkness, the way Evelyn lit mine. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing in second chances.